There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Convergence Healing Podcast. I love sharing information with you guys. I love when I have guests that just like key into me. I just think they're so much fun. And this is one of those people that the moment I was referred to her, I was just like, oh, I love her. Like there's an energy about her. And I hadn't even met her yet. And I just looked her up and she came from a dear, dear friend. And I went, all right, you are it. So we are sitting down today with a lovely guest who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, but I know you can all see her on your screen. I just want to remind everybody that, here we go. The Convergent Healing Podcast is brought to you in a partnership with Earthwalk as a part of their global wholeness clock. Earthwalk's mission is to create a global culture of peace, and we are tending to the moment of joy at 4:55 Pacific Standard Time. To find out more about the Wholeness Clock and its other shows and programs, please visit their website, which is www.earthwalkunited.org/wholeness clock. Now, I get to take my glasses off and I get to have a super, super cool conversation with Lisa Winicki. Lisa, thank you so much for being part of it, for just showing up and being on my show.
I'm excited because of how you laid down the conversation before we even jumped on. I'm like, fun, yes, talking about joy, talking about transformation. And straight away when we connected and I was talking about the gorgeous colors and painting behind you, I felt that instant connection, which I knew I would because of the relationship or the person that connected us. And so I feel so much that when you're in that place, you are. And connecting is the thing that I love more than anything, that when you're connected with extraordinary people, it's just like this maze. It's like a spider web that goes out into the world and just
absolutely.
Like, oh yes, I want more of you. And can I connect with you? And so, it's funny because even as I'm talking, my mum says, God, you meet extraordinary people. How do you meet these people? And I'm like, one person leads you to another, leads you to another, leads you to another.
It is a web. It absolutely is a web. And I like to think of it as like the web of flow. Like we're just in the flow. We're meeting, talking, connecting, just doing all that. It's not even networking. It's just loving. And so thank you. I love that you're here. And a shout out to our mutual friend, Dr. Mary Helen Hensley, who is just an amazing healer, a beautiful soul. And she's been on my podcast in the past, folks. So if you want to look up, her name is Dr. Mary Helen Hensley. Incredible frequency healer, incredible psychic, super fun person. And I really invite you to look her up. So you have a story. This show is, I like to focus on transformation and what we kind of mentioned earlier about this idea of post-traumatic growth, right? So much of us have traumas and we have these experiences that we need to heal. And sometimes we get stuck in the trauma and we don't overcome it. And sometimes we have a trauma that comes in, and in the healing of it, we expand, we become so big, right? We just learn so much. And you have one of those stories. So I would love for you just to tell us some of that story.
Well, so I feel like there's two, well, not that necessarily the thing that happened in a couple of years ago was trauma, but it probably was to some degree. But I think what you're talking about is a trauma of living with an eating disorder and depression and anxiety for 20 years, which no one knew about. No family, no friends. My husband at the time did not. I'm no longer married. My husband at the time didn't know for the first 10 years of our relationship. So that was a very traumatic time. Looking back at it, I felt deeply alone. I loathed, Peter, I loathed myself. I was super unconscious. I didn't know. I didn't actually, there was never an opening that I thought I could get out of this hole. I just thought that was it, that this was a life that I was living, and no one would ever find out because I was so deeply ashamed of what I was doing and how I was feeling about life. So, yes, I probably didn't look enormously different to the way I am now, but if you get energy and you get, really you tune into somebody, I'm a completely different person. But I was very good at coming across with confidence. And confidence. Like people used to say, oh, you're so confident. How did I not get that? How did I not see that? Because I was a master. I was a master at faking it, a master at hiding the shame.
Surviving, yeah. I understand that. I never had an eating disorder, but I definitely had body dysmorphia. I still get a twinge of it every now and then, especially
Mm.
living in Southern California. Right?
I don't know enough about. So is that deep fried food, and is
No,
that what?
body dysmorphia is when you look in the mirror and you see something that's not there. So you see, I used to look in the mirror and I used to think I was a monster. I saw this
Mm,
awful, horrible, this thing to be shamed of, right?
mm,
That's what I saw. I didn't see a fun loving, attractive young man. I saw a monster, right?
mm,
And so I can kind of relate to those, that sort of misfiring, right? The From
mm,
what I know, I've never had an eating disorder, but that it's kind of a misfiring in the brain where we perceive things differently than how they really are, and we
mm,
hide. I was hiding. I had the mask on. I I had to do all kinds of things to actually see myself in the way that other people saw me, so to see my truth, right?
mm.
And it was interesting. There's a song. Do you know Charles Schultz? Peanuts cartoon, Snoopy.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
kind of guy.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he actually wrote a Broadway musical, and there's a song in there that says, it goes like this. I'm not going to sing it, but the song
Go,
goes
go,
like
go, go.
this.
Come on.
If just one person believes in you, deep enough, long enough, believes in you, hard enough, strong enough, believes in you, it stands to reason that maybe even you can believe in you too. And I thought, what wisdom is in that cartoon, silly little song, right? If just one person believes in you.
And it's really what just came through as you were saying that, which is so, so beautiful. When I first started, when I was still in this place, when the eating disorder had come back, I had twin boys. I'm just going to jump back into the story because it aligns with what you just shared. So the bulimia, I had bulimia for 20 years. That came back, and no one knew. But one of my boys had been diagnosed with high functioning autism, and that just rocked my world. Rocked. The whole pain body was just like in a state. So I came across, or I was led to a kinesiologist who became a very, very close friend of mine. She died 2 years ago, and she is always like she's very, very present. But when I went to see her, I went to see her for him because I wanted to help him. I wanted him to have. She said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "I just want him to have one friend. I just want him to feel loved, for him to feel like he belongs." And
Mm,
she said to me, "All he needs," and I'm going to make me emotion, "is your love.
mm.
If you can love him unconditionally, that's all he needs." And it was then the table was turned, and then Sharon turned around and said, "How long have you had an eating disorder?" I'm like, "How the hell do you know?" No one knows.
Right?
And so it was like, okay, and so now this is your opportunity for you to learn to love you in order for you to be that for your son. So he was the reason that I then changed trajectory and went down this past 14 years ago.
Beautiful. Wow. Wow. That's a great story. And to go from that pain and that hiding your authentic self to who you are today. I mean, I went to your website and the New Good News Guide, and you have your podcast, your membership part of the site, and all that type of stuff. Wow, you are just putting it out there. And it's so heartwarming. It's so authentic. It's so comforting to see, to feel that, right? Um, Thank you for doing that. And this is really part of your journey, right? This is
Yeah.
part of that growth arc.
And so I sit here, and it's so perfect. You bring up the word authentic, and I was like, but that is my mess. That really is what I have been. That's what has been cultivating all of this time through the process of owning my humanness, owning the stories that had kept me stuck in that state, that had me believing that I was, a shameful, wrong, bad failure,
Mm,
loser. So the more I owned it, it was like the unraveling. The more I started to share what was going on, and to open up, the shame dropped away because it was a shame that was keeping me stuck inside those stories. And once I started to speak about it, people connected. People like, oh, it just brought people in closer to me, which is what it was what I wanted. I wanted to feel connected. And whilst I was in that state, there was no connection. I was desiring it, but didn't realize that by actually having the mask on, that kept me from everything that I wanted to experience, which was love and connection, love and deep connection. So the whole process of coming back to self and owning my humanness and owning the things and giving voice to the things that arise, whether we were talking about before about coming back into potential lockdown in Melbourne, Australia, and how I actually really feel, which was, fuck, I don't want to go into like this. I did it last year and I've got 3 boys. I don't want to do that. For a time last year, I was trying to do, as I was saying to you, Peter, the love and light, I'm going to just coach myself through the frustration and the pissed offness. But this time, and thank you for the permission, is no, I am not happy with the situation. And I'm going to allow myself to be that, because there will be people that maybe were feeling like I was feeling last year. And when they hear somebody actually giving voice to what they're feeling, it's freeing.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is, because we connect with people. And when you connect from our own stories, from our own hearts, it allows other people to feel safe. For a very short time, I don't know why this is coming up, but for a very short time, I actually did stand-up comedy. I did. I did. Oh, well, I actually was pretty good at it, but I didn't like it. But I was really good. I took these classes and I had the most amazing teacher. He was just incredible. His name was Jerry Katzman. He works with all kinds of big celebrities now, but years ago when I took that class with him, Jerry would talk about finding the comedy in the pain of your story. And in sharing the story, you're letting somebody else say, oh, me too. And there's a healing that gets to happen when you've gone through that, when you've done the healing work, or even when you're just starting it, right? And you're being authentic about it, and you're finding even the humor, because, oh my gosh, these things can be really funny. The things that we do, the ridiculous things that we do to keep ourselves hidden, right? To keep ourselves shamed and hiding under a rock. The things that we do are ridiculous. Right? And then we think nobody knows, nobody can tell, nobody knows, right? And half the time I'm sure people do like the healer you went to, but they're like, well, none of my business, so I'm not going to say anything, right? But when we become authentic with that and we share our stories, whenever I do one of my speaking gigs, I often talk about how I say, one of the ways I lead in is I say, the best thing that ever happened to me is I died. I want you all to hear that. I don't want you all to go, now kill yourself, but I want you to understand that the best thing that ever happened to me was that I was slammed into a semi-truck and I died. And I went to the other side. And that experience of having to leave my body, knowing I was deeply in pain and not being in the pain, knowing that my body was in pain, but seeing it as separate from who I am, being able to see that pain is, oh, I know my body's experiencing that, but it's not who I am. That was really healing to me. And then being on the other side and having that experience of being just engulfed. I don't know what other words to use, but engulfed with the love, the bliss, the joy, the beauty. There's I don't know what adjective to use. None of them describe. Take all of those adjectives I just said and multiply them by 10 billion, and you still don't have that experience of what it's like, that love, the depth of that love that's waiting for us on the other side, right? So I had to come back, and I didn't want to come back. I seriously, I didn't want to come back. And I was told I need to come back. And the entity, the being, God, whatever you want to say it is, I don't know, that was on the other side told me I had to come back. And all the anger that I had in my physical form suddenly was present for me. And I still didn't jump back in my body, but the learnings that happen from these experiences and sharing these stories, people go, well, I'm not so afraid of death anymore then. Well, if you did it and you went there and it was the most loving experience that you ever had, then you're not an exception, right? Your life isn't an exception. What if it was the rule? What if that experience of being connected to the divine was always present with us? What if we could always do that? But there's a human side of us and a divine side of us, and the human side can push away, right? It can decide, right? Free will. It can decide to move away from the light, or it can decide to move closer to the light. And if death really isn't anything but a new beginning, then why not live this life and have a good time? Right? Why I catch myself, I'm human. I still worry now and then, or I still do what I was taught how to do in my culture and my background and my family, worrying, money doesn't grow on trees, all that crap, right? And I catch myself saying, well, is that a truth? And it's not. And so that's when I have to say, okay, I'm going to be kind and compassionate for myself for having that thought, but I can now move on. And I can remember my truth of that love that I know is right there, just on the other side. And I can still feel it. I don't know if you can feel it, just me talking about it.
My
right?
heart, so yeah, it just expands. I mean, the whole time since you've been sharing, I had a lot of energy moving up actually when you were sharing the experience of seeing your body in pain, but not being attached to it. That I heard that. I don't know what was going on for me, but I heard that in a new way then.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I'm having a physical. People say to me, well, you cured yourself. And I'm like, well, yeah, I did, but that doesn't mean I'm not still living. I'm not stuck in time. I still stub my toe, right? I still fall in love and fall out of love. And I still do these things. Pain, it's not like I'm immune to pain now, but I understand that it is not my identity. I understand it's part of my human experience and it's okay. And I can be kind and compassionate and just know that I get to move through it, right? I don't identify by it anymore. Even if it's something I'm experiencing, it's an experience, not a definition, right? And so that's part of this idea. Like, how do we cultivate joy? Like, how did you go from being in this way that was painful, living in that sort of lockdown in your mind, not even lockdown we're going through now with COVID, right? But in a lockdown of your soul. And then these experiences of letting it come out. Like, how did you cultivate those moments of joy? What was to bring you to where you are today?
Oh, I would say for the first maybe decade of this new path, that it was still coming from a space of what do I need to fix this so this is right. And really it's only in the past few years, and it was the lead up to jumping, I say jumping out of a marriage because it felt like I was leaping, because it kind of came on me. I came out of a meditation. I'll just quickly share. I was in a 2-hour meditation. I went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza event, and I was working with a mind moving kaleidoscope, and I'd created this mind movie of all these beautiful things that I thought I wanted. And I came out and went, who created that? That's not what I want. And that was 6 weeks later, I was separated. So in the process of this happening, what I came back to is I was still living a life that wasn't my life. I wasn't living a life that I chose. I was living a life based on my conditioning, my beliefs, who I thought I was, what I thought I deserved, what I felt I deserved. And so I'd been working mentally on how to feel joy. But I started, we're going to talk about this quickly, because I started when I went and studied kinesiology as a result of the experience, and I kept seeing Sharon. And so it had such a profound effect that I went and studied kinesiology for a few years. So I don't practice it, but it was an extraordinary experience in the process of the healing. And then I finished my kinesiology course, And my best friend at the time was doing it with me, and we started a business. I wanted to feel joy, but I didn't know, I didn't feel it. Like I didn't know what it felt like because my body was still feeling, the feelings of loneliness and feelings of fear and feelings of doubt. And not saying that they don't still exist, but it was much more conditioned to feel that way. So it's been a relearning, teaching my body, cultivating like what could joy feel like. So I do a lot of meditations now where I'm cultivating different feelings inside of me. So that's one of the ways I do it. But the other thing, so a lot of it was through Dr. Joe's work, which was, really understanding that everything is a chemical react, that we're responding to chemical reactions in our bodies. And what I really got was that my body was addicted to these other states. My body was addicted to feeling disappointed. My body was addicted to feeling depressed.
Yep.
So what did I need to do to retrain, to reprogram the way my body reacted was through meditation, through movement. I've used movement through the process of separation to come into contact with the emotions that are inside my body. What are you laughing about?
My husband just came in and blew me a kiss. So,
Hi.
I don't think you realize we're recording.
That's okay. He can come and join us if he wants.
Yeah, right? I'm all good.
So movement. So to be able to move some of this emotional stuckness inside my body and actually be with it and allow it to be there, and then move like a tunnel, move through to something else. Like how there's sadness there, but what else on the other side of sadness? What exists if I allow myself to feel that?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, so
so
you sort of followed,
So
right?
rather than resist the things that I didn't want to feel, if I could allow my body to feel it, there's always something on the other side. And so then I can anchor that feeling. Oh, and then I can, so then I really did use movement to start to cultivate that. And then that's just been an ongoing thing. But the other thing is continually choosing the things that light me up. Like,
I'm celebrating that right now. Yeah, absolutely.
so, and knowing I am like I get in a knowing now that I create everything. So if I'm creating all the time, what do I want to create? Do I want to create, and if I'm creating something that I am not happy with and I'm not appreciating and I don't like, and I want to create this, okay, so would I feel in creating this? So cultivating those feelings based on the visions that I have for my work, for my role as a mum, for in relationship, for friendship, all of that is consciously choosing how I want to feel. And so,
Beautiful.
one of the things that we talked about with Dr. Mary Helen Hensley, who's also been on my show, is that also is a support for me to feel the feelings that I want to feel. So from a point of joy, if my body is conditioned to feel fearful, worry, doubt, then what do I need to do, as she says, to wring out the sponge, is I can use frequency music to support me in order to bring me to a new state of being. So,
Gorgeous.
it's a process.
It is a process, and
Yeah.
allowing that, one of the things that you said too was really honoring something we talked about prior to recording, was that honoring your feelings, allowing your feelings, and knowing that there's another feeling on the other side of that. People forget that we're all really still little babies. We really are, right? A baby has a feeling, and it's crying or whatever it's doing, right? It's having that feeling. And then literally 10 seconds later, it's like, giggle, giggle, cuckoo, right? It's doing that, right? If you've ever been around babies, it happens. And we forget that we're the same things. We are these little processing human emotional machines, I guess, in a way. And I don't like to say machine, but in a way, we feel things and we have to allow that feeling to go through us. And whenever we stop those feelings because someone told us it was wrong, or it's not safe, or it's shameful, or anything like that, that's where we start developing problems.
Mm.
When we allow ourselves to be completely present and authentic with our feelings, we let the feeling move through us. It's like what I said earlier about being angry. Like people used to tell me, you can't be angry. You're a healer. You're a published author. You're a speaker. You're supposed to be above that. And I'm like, no, not at all. I am a human being. Yes, I am having a spirit. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. I
Mm,
absolutely 100% agree with that. My core, my source is the divine, and I am an
mm,
expression of the divine in the physical human world. And there are
mm,
things to be angry about.
mm,
No, I don't let that anger hijack me and take me over. I
mm,
allow myself to feel it, to be present with it, and I don't pass it on. That's a big thing that people do, right? Anger is kind of, all emotions are things. We can pass them on to people just like we can pass joy. But
mm,
anger, I love giving that sort of cisgender, heteronormative kind of example of the boss
mm,
beating up the husband and the husband beating up the wife and the wife beating up and the kid beating up the dog and the dog biting the mailman. And anger gets passed down and down and down and down. So we could do two things. We shove it down inside of us like you we're doing is whatever that shame was or whatever, you're shoving it down and it makes us sick. Or we can process it, be present with it, and allow it to move through us and come out on the other side. And I
mm,
can pretty much guarantee you that on the other side of all of this human stuff is joy. I look
mm,
at like there's a spectrum of human emotions, right? All the human emotions, and all of us are trying to cram into that side that's happy. But there's so many more. There's so many more emotions that we all get to have if we allow ourselves and to have these full, rich lives, right?
mm,
I
mm,
do believe that there's an umbrella. You can call it love, you can call it joy, you can call it God, whatever it is. But that love, that joy, that God, whatever it is like an umbrella over all of those emotions. And that joy is accessible to us all the time. It's not something we have to go find.
mm,
It's something that is always, it's like a divine spark. It's always
mm,
there. I've seen it in the most desperate of moments. I've felt it in like grief. You go to a funeral and there's deep, heavy grief, and
mm,
yet there's that joy that's right
mm,
there, right?
mm, mm,
So when we understand that, and when we can say, "Hey, I am honest with my feelings. I'm authentic with my feelings," and we allow other people to do that. Oh my God, what a gift we give to those people we love when we
mm,
allow them to honestly, authentically have their feelings. We
mm,
don't, because we're uncomfortable, we don't say, here, Chloe, wipe away those tears. No, stop handing people tissues. Let them have their tears, right? When we're uncomfortable because somebody's angry, let them be angry. Learn how to be present with their anger. What a powerful thing you're doing because you're getting to witness that anger.
mm,
And just the act of being witnessed, oh my God, when somebody truly sees us, hears us, feels us, witnesses us on that profound level without making us wrong or bad or punishing us or shaming us, they're just right there with us. Some of the most amazing healing happens in those moments. And so I just want to thank you for this conversation. And
mm,
thank you for putting yourself out there. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for talking about difficult conversations like eating disorders,
mm,
right? Thank you for doing it without shame.
mm. Oh, it's there's no, for me it's really, it's extraordinary to actually for that to be reflected back in these moments, because that's where I am now, that there really is no shame, because it was a story based on stories that I had about the person that I wasn't,
Mhm.
you know. uh, it's And so I know in the sharing of the stories, I've created and am creating the life that I couldn't never have anticipated, where I meet amazing people, I laugh, I feel joy, and yes, I feel all of the emotions, but I really loved what you just shared about the umbrella and how everything exists under that one banner. And also just touching on what you shared recently, which is something that I've had to work with since I separated, is a very, very, very angry son, angry at me for making the choice to leave a marriage that he thought was, you know, he in his mind as a 12-year-old, 11-year-old thought was good. But what I have experienced, our relationship and what we're experiencing now, is because of my ability to be with his rage. And I'm talking rage, which in the past would have had me run away, abandon, hijack myself, or project back to him. But being able to sit and allow him to have his entire experience has been profound for him, but it actually has allowed me to see, if I can do that for me, the more I can do that for me and hold space for me when I'm at my worst, and love myself and be compassionate and kind for myself when I'm at that, when I'm a tantruming child, when others can't. If I can do that for me, then I can do that for my kids, and I can do that for my partner, and I can do that for the people that I'm connected with.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, you're already making the world a better place. That was one of your mission statements, just in a way, right? To bring that goodness into the world.
Yeah, to
Well, you're
raise the
living it.
to raise the frequency of the planet by me doing it first, and then rippling out to whoever we connect with.
Yeah. I'm going to invite everybody to take that experience, to go into that experience of just being so present. And thank you for demonstrating that. Are there any last words you'd like to say as we wrap up? Anything you want to shout out to people?
I just love I loved your energy, and actually what it allowed. I'm like, can I take something from this? But we're all very different, and I do love fun. Like, fun is one of my goalposts. So like, how can I create fun in every moment? So I just want to say thank you for making it fun for me and bringing these conversations around what transformation can do and how they just provide such gold to take into the rest of our lives in the way that we are and the way we show up and the way we love and connect with people. That's been the gold for me. And if
Thank you
anyone
so much.
and if anyone wants to check out my conversations, I will be having Peter on my show. Dr. Mary Helen Hensley will be there. The Good News Guide is on YouTube and on podcast vehicles. And I'm at lisawinicky.com,
Brilliant. Brilliant.
www.com.
I love that. Thank you, Lisa. And as we wrap up, I just wanted to, got to put my glasses on again, guys. Just a reminder that this is a joint partnership, and the Convergence Healing God podcast, Godcast. I just said Convergence Healing Godcast. Wow. Wow. I like that one. All right. Convergence Healing Podcast is also brought to you in partnership with the Earth Walk. So the Earth Walk's Global Wholeness Clock and its daily moments offer a variety of opportunities, such as global community access to live interviews, health and wellness classes, meditations, music and art, conscious connection, and relationship building. If you guys want to find out more about Earthwalk, please go to earthwalkunited.org/wholeness clock. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm just so excited to share all this goodness with you. Lisa, thank you for being my guest. And to everybody that's out there, please connect with us. We're on YouTube, on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram and Facebook. Find us as Convergence Healing. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Take care. Make it a beautiful day. Ciao.